proven to have played the game of catch up with some of the bigger teams. But then again, AL has always been a formidable team going into the past tournament. So it's not really as surprising. It's just that the big question will always come down to whether or not will it be enough this time around.
Yeah, something to note also, AL does want to come back stronger because they have struggled with facing mainland China teams in the past. They did win the 2020 Japan IVC, so they did get a direct invite for now. But again, we're talking about GR here. They got fourth in the fall IVL and third in IVL fall. They didn't get a direct invite because of the amazing teams, but you know what? They showed consistency and dominance in the qualifiers.
Right. You know, that's actually interesting to note because it just ties into not just the other regions, but even the teams in mainland China.
Yeah, 100%. Even though that the qualifiers did include some amateur teams, it's a feat on itself for them to be able to be consistent. And here we go, Vampy over at the statue area, seeing MKK here. The Seer actually would be a great target for this sculptor because again, she can definitely bait out that owl with all these statue hits, and it seems like Vampy is going to be locked and loaded for this Seer.
Yeah, now just waiting for that, whether or not we'll be seeing a full commit. Not necessarily the most ideal target, but not a bad way to go either. If ever timing, it really comes down to timing when it comes to this particular chase, and that's an early owl.
Yeah, again, baiting out that owl just so that the Seer would be a blank slate. When that owl gets hit, he gets a Volt debuff. So I believe this is actually a pretty formidable target because again, that Priestess in oh my gosh, setting up these portals is gonna be a very tricky target. And comparing it to the Brawny the Brawny forward as well as the Wildling, to definitely harass. So Vampy is locked and loaded with the MKK, but look at all these portals being utilized for him to gain this this distance.
And there you go, Vampy. Oh! Falls down.
But the chase is still on, Articuno.
That is definitely a huge breather for the Seer here. Just gets a lot of time. Bit of an unfortunate mishap right there, but you know what? This sculptor is back on the hunt, and not to mention closing out a lot of distance. MKK having to dodge and duck and weave and makes up for lost ground by getting that down on the Seer.
You see the timing on that sculptures and the regular hit? Amazing stuff from Vampy. Again, that was quite the unfortunate spot and really great stuff for MKK being able to let Vampy fall down to the basement. But now it seems like they have to respond to this shared Seer. The chisel will be used over at the shack area, and Seasai will definitely have to respect that.
I guess we'll have to see as well whether or not will we be actually finding the commit of a rescue, because in all fairness, Cypher progress is pretty decent for GR, so I believe they can afford to commit some level of time to rescue that Seer, and you know, just to buy them a lot more time by having those full forward bolstered numbers straight on the field.
Yeah, and you see that the Wildling does have wanted order, and he is always at the vicinity just to either bait a save or just keep the Hunter at bay, just so the Hunter would not disrupt any Cypher Rush. But from this Sculptor, you see that the Chisel just does so much work, and it has so much surveillance around the area. Here we see the entrance of Hospital. Seasai over there just ducking and weaving. You see that the Wildling trying to find the opening, but Vampy does a great job in multitasking to see if like going for surveillance or gonna go camping. So now we see that the forward is over at Hospital. 3 survivors remaining.
Yes, so that's going to be a bit of a breather here for Vampy, but at the same time, GR, like I said, significant progress on the 3 survivors that haven't been popped yet. But there is still going to be that struggle of that 5th one. Okay, we see a 5th one come to light, slowly being worked on. Not to mention, the good thing about this is, okay, on the flip side, they only have 1 pop. But with 3 at a very good position for priming, it gives them a lot of options. And this will force Vampy in a position where Vampy is not going to have the easiest time anticipating which area this particular Hunter should be focusing on for these survivors. So it's a lot of mind games that GR is bringing to the table.
Yeah, so far it's just gonna tunnel in on XMM, and look at that beautiful blink. And I'd like to highlight what you mentioned. Yes, these ciphers are being primed, so they're giving Vampy that false sense of security just to say like, oh, I have enough time. There's 4 ciphers remaining. But if you listen closely, like these ciphers are ready to pop. One is just about to do that, and they'll slowly be a domino effect if they're able to play their cards right.
Yeah, calm and collected GR still his, even in the face of having one survivor chaired, one back to the manor. So they're still making some good progress. It's just that with 3 survivors remaining, you can only do so much, and at the same time, there's just less room for error at this point in time.
Wow. Okay, Seaside using that football just to get to the priestess before the half hit, and great stuff, great rescue. XMM just had to take that hit to try to traverse a better area, but as you mentioned, the ciphers are popping one by one, so Vampy cannot, just sleep on the wheel. He needs to be able to keep pushing, and he notices that there's a cipher at the entrance gate there that's about to pop. Now zoning in on Seaside.
Yeah. And in all fairness, Kong is really starting to pick up the pace for the team. 2 ciphers which are ready for the popping. So Vampy definitely would want to ideally keep up the pace here. Healing is coming on very nicely at 58% for XMM. It's only a matter of time though. There's only so much that Zai can do.
Yeah, without a football, that was, didn't have that much resources. And I love the proactivity of Vampy, allowing the priestess to just use up her self-heal, focusing on this forward, just to keep the survivors in check and keep them guessing on what's going to happen next. But, Articuno, as you mentioned, there's 1 cipher remaining.
There is just 1, and timing is going to be everything at this point in time. Luckily, Zai is very fresh on this chair, so the possibility of working with the full 3 numbers towards the last pop is still very much feasible here for them, so long as they play their cards right. XMM, however, is not necessarily in the best position to go for that rescue, and actually gets a hit.
Yeah, Wildling tried to just get the attention there. Couldn't go for that save just yet. Still on that board, so he's going to have to ride that till the end. You see that XMM is pushing for that cipher. It's like 80% Articuno. The timing needs to be right here. Oh, look at that excellent push away, but pushing him closer to XMM to try and save the forward. XMM has to run and retreat away from that cipher.
Yes, and looks like that will be the fall of XMM, but Vampy, wow.
Okay, using Abnormal to prolong the game, and just like that, the tide is slowly turning in favor of Vampy.
That is pretty darn good. And with Abnormal coming into play for AL's Hunter, this just makes it monumentally harder for GR. We were already in a position where we were almost convinced they almost have it with that last pop, but that Abnormal coming into play just made things more difficult times 100.
Yeah, for sure. Because again, the late game was about to happen, the end game. The gate war was supposed to push through, and now just prolonging that with two survivors that are not really known as decoders. They have to start from 50%. It just prolongs the war of attrition here for Vampy. So far, so good. Can he be able to get a 4K? It's actually in the mids, I think.
Yeah, and I might be a bit bold saying this, but AL's Vampy, very impressive. Could still very much push for the feasibility of getting all 4 survivors out of this game. It's just a huge curveball from that point of Abnormal coming into play for GR. Like, everyone was convinced that this was about to lead towards some big numbers for GR at the gate, but no, that's not the case. Vampy just canceling out a lot of possibility for GR, and the pressure is on GR right now.
Vampy is doing a great job patrolling around the area, just making sure that he's patrolling these ciphers. None of them are popping, but it does give room for GR to get some items. You see that the forward is healing up, and now the Kong has the attention of Vampy, still on that board, so can't eat a lot of those hits. Already full presence, and mind you, the Abnormal already, the cooldown time is done, so Vampy can actually keep hammering at that cipher for them to really lose this war of attrition.
Indeed, and oh my gosh, this is crazy. GR, in all fairness, Luckily, they were able to recuperate, regroup, even in the midst of just two members remaining. It's not gonna lie, Clutch. It's gonna be very hard. Zai
It's a
trying to
big
work.
task. Yeah, you see that the forward is trying to pop the Cypher at least above in the hospital, a place that the survivors find safe haven in. But you know, Vampy with the wherewithal just to try to counter this, still not sleeping on the wheel here, knows that GR is one of the most formidable survivor teams out there and very consistent. Now locks his sights on CZai.
Yes, this is difficult. I think, if anything, it's going to be a game of patience and mental fortitude that we're looking at here. Patience for GR to try to work with the two survivors they have left into this game, working around that as normal. And for Vanpy, the patience game of just making sure to keep these ciphers in check. I mean, it's not as tough considering that there are only two survivors remaining. So it's like the scales at a very unstable situation right now for both teams, for both sides.
Yeah, that's true. But GR, being the formidable team they're definitely trying to gain the attention just to try to pull Vampy away and lure an opening for them to push for that Cypher. But then again, this is why the Sculptor is one of the best hunters in this meta today, because of that chisel. She can definitely harass around the map and still have amazing chase because of the the statues that she presents. And now we see a propped up I think the crows. Yeah, crows are being a factor for Kong, and he is not on his board, so this is definitely a big opening for Vampy if he can down this wildling.
Yeah, and oh goodness, the game continues. Like, look at GR, still at a fourth each damage, and it's been pretty steady.
Back and forth, tug of war. Look at this, just back and forth, inside the hospital, outside the hospital. But look at that, Vampy able to get a hit into Kong. Kong needs to find his way to get back into his wildling pal over there, but also eat that much hits. But look at that, CZai trying to push, trying to tempt fate here. But Vampy again chasing out the forward. Will he go for the full commit to this forward?
Yeah, these survivors trying to do what they can, ideal scenario, to try to lure Vampy away from these ciphers. And of course, you know, this is what makes it tricky. Vampy has easy access to keeping those ciphers in check. So, like you said it best, Clutch. It's just this continuing struggle of power and a tug of war between AL and GR. And not gonna lie, it's an interesting sight to behold. It might be a repetition that we're seeing from both sides, but that's what makes it all the more intense. Who is going to be the first to break that cycle?
You know, it's just who's going to blink first, right? Who's going to commit the first mistake? Because so far, they're playing it very conservatively. Vampy darting back and forth, monitoring the ciphers outside the hospital while still defending this cipher that the forward is pushing. But also, mind you, he has one abnormal still on deck. So if he doesn't feel too comfy with this cipher, progress! And just like that, whittles away everything for that the forward was working on. So really big hill to climb for GR. That hill actually turned into a mountain, Articuno.
It did. It really did, Clutch. And things are just gonna be very tricky. And okay, check out Cypher Project, by the way. Just you know, that's this thing. It's like just smidgets that they have to pull off, and this is turning out to be a long stretch of a game, Clutch. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't mind it actually. I really don't.
Okay, yeah, I don't think anybody does, because again, it's just back and forth. We want to find the best of the best who plays at their topmost conditions when it's already down to the wire between these two. Already half health are both the survivors on GR's side. Can Vampy do the unthinkable and get the 4K amongst this just amazing survivors? You do see the forward using up the last of that syringe. Kong jumping back on the wildling. I think this is one of the longest matches that we'll witness here in Call of the Abyss.
It really does look to be the case, because at this point, Vampy's the most ideal you would want is to, well, Kong already has halfway, so that's one thing. At least by taking down one, it helps relieve a lot of the pressure. But then again, there's also the factor where you have to consider which survivors still have a self-heal tour, because it's not going to be an easy time of just bringing someone to the rocket chair. Vampy, of course, is in the mindset where he wants to go for all four out of the mana.
Oh yeah, for sure. If he can set that pace, since we did start at a 2-2, it could definitely happen. But CZai gets caught in the mix, drops down to the first floor. Oh, luckily for him, the hit wasn't in the way, but he is chasing. Already used the elbow patch, and it is the forward that will be falling down first between the two survivors.
Yes. Now, it's all a matter of trying to scout out where Kong is. And of course, Vanpy very well aware of positioning for Kong here. But looks like Vanpy's first instinct will be to try to close out the distance a bit. Probably bring somewhere... Oh, that's going to be the drop.
Yeah, yeah, like you said, close out that distance just to make sure that he's monitoring the Cypher here. And I believe he's going to use Abnormal once again. Oh my goodness, the pressure is it's insurmountable from the side of GR with this very calculated and very smothering playstyle of Vampy.
It's crazy if you think about it. Meanwhile, yeah, sights on Kong right now towards the top. Vanpy, of course, going to be very well aware of what is going on. Going to make that transition towards the second floor to keep Kong in check. Now, Vanpy is trying to weigh in. Did Kong already transition? Just trying to hear things out.
Yeah.
Looks like we'll just double check in case.
Yeah, he tries to see Kong if anybody is pushing that Cypher in the second floor. He does see that the forward did get back up, and now again you said that he has to worry about the self heals. If he downs the forward again, that's a good done deal for him until they're able to pop that last Cypher. Kong gets back on his horse just so that he can eat more of those hits. Will Vampy choose to commit? Because we see that Kong, the forward, is trying to dig for something, for an item to be able to use in this game.
Exactly, and oh gosh, the patience is real for Vanpy. Question is, where at this point in time, it's just Vanpy not even really needing to be super proactive. It really comes down to the survivors to an extent revealing themselves first and foremost. Because it's them that's kind of in the pressure cooker right now, more so than Vanpy, where all Vanpy has to do is pretty much wait for activity to happen from either one of them. And looks like the heal will come up from inside by.
Yeah, that's the thing. If Vampy does sleep on the wheel just a little bit, stuff like that could happen where the forward is able to heal. So you can't sleep on a formidable team like GR. Vampy is aware of that and still monitoring around. Does not want to give an inch to GR because he knows they'll take a mile, and this could be the opportunity for him to down this wildling, and he does.
Oh my gosh. And there you have it. That's going to be Vanpy keeping things in control. That's going to be a huge breather, by the way. Kong isn't going to be a problem. So it's going to be all coming down to taking down the final member of GR, who is trying to sneak his way through, by the way. Vanpy, of course, trying to read the situation, figure out where the survivor is. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, so something to note also is that the wildling did have that self-heal. So it's really a war of attrition here where Vampy is making sure that he's secure. He doesn't want to even give them the luxury of that dungeon. Doesn't want to make sure to chair someone so that dungeon pops up. Wants to make sure he whittles down everything and wants to make sure he does this right because he knows that this round is very important to set the pace and gets a quick hit there on the side of the forward.
This is crazy, Poch. GR in a bit of a struggle. There are no more second lives. No more chances for both Kong and Cizai. One drop. That's one. No more healing up. Unless a fellow survivor can up them, but I mean, chances are with only 2 survivors remaining, that's a tall order. Grande, Venti, however you want it.
And another just abnormal, just to make sure that none of these objectives or none of these ciphers get popped. And that one, even though it's just one, the late game is still denied, all courtesy of Vampy. Excellent stuff here, just monitoring, still being very calculated, not making sure that he doesn't like leave any corner of this map untouched because he wants to make sure that he downs both these survivors. And he sees Cizai in his radar, a fully healed up forward, by the way.
Yes, at least that's a little bit of a small consolation to GR right now, but let's be honest, like that's just counting what blessings you do have in this game. There is still the huge problem of GR not really having a clear solution on how to get these ciphers up.
But the thing is, the more he uses Abnormal, the less and less it gets. So they're really
True.
trying to try to push as much as they can and survive and really split the attention of Vampy. You saw that the Wildling is so good at late game, especially when he gets on that boar. He can just eat a lot of those hits, and a lot of time would be bought for Kong to pop that Cypher. But Vampy realizing that once he's on that boar, make sure he switches target. The boar is on cooldown now. Porky is on cooldown, so now Vampy trying to set his sights, still monitoring around Birdcage here, the entrance of the hospital. Does see Kong in the distance, puts a chisel there. Could this be it? That is the last life of Kong. Can Seaside try to seize the opportunity and try to up his teammate, or wait for him to bleed out for him to get to the dungeon?
Tricky. Look at this though. Trying to salvage what can, maybe find some tools that'll help his cause. Okay, one to work with. That's it's gonna help a bit in terms of keeping himself up, but I mean, still not the most ideal.
Yeah, oh wow, uses the wand right there just to buy him a little more time. Jukes back into this structure of ruins here. Seaside again running with still a little bit of ammunition with him. Uses the wand once again to try to, well, he does have that wand left, but then 1/4 hit would actually down him. Can he survive long enough? No! It is gonna be a 4K for AL.